Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with my review of Tuesday's NXT from May 25th, 2021. Know who wore it better this week, despite what you may have seen in the Control Center on the Raw review. I kind of had a mental lapse when I put that in there because Dynamite is moving to Friday this week because of the NBA playoffs, and so that's actually going to run the same night as SmackDown, so that's going to be a whole other can of worms for how I'm going to review those two shows on Friday night. But be that as it may, NXT this week, still a very solid offering, and we're going to see how it all went down. The show begins with a match between two former pairs of NXT Women's Tag Team Champions with a shot at the belts, who for the winners here, you have Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez versus SHOTZI Blackheart and Ember Moon. Good back and forth in this matchup here. In the end, Ember is able to fight out of the one-arm powerbomb by Raquel, hits kind of a modified Eclipse, basically a stunner from way up there, hits the Eclipse on Raquel, and then you've got Dakota hit with this very interesting double team move by the good guys here, SHOTZI and Ember, so they win the match. But then right afterward, Raquel just beats up the baby faces and beats up SHOTZI on the outside, while Ember is forced to watch, and she's pinned down into the corner, everything, forced to watch everything. So we're basically even Steven here. I don't know why, but I feel like, I don't know, something feels kind of off about Raquel Gonzalez as champion. I think it's because, to my recollection, she's the only women's champion who's ever been like part of a duo, like an active like team with somebody in Dakota Kai, whereas everybody else seems to be kind of a lone wolf kind of character, or somebody who doesn't really have a consistent corner person. And the fact is, you know, Raquel was brought in as the muscle, the second in command basically to Dakota, who's supposed to be the kind of leader of the two. And that's obviously something that's tailor-made for something down the line. But I just feel like, I don't know, Raquel as champion right now doesn't have quite the same kind of oomph that I felt with like when Rhea Ripley won the championship, or even when Ember Moon had the championship way back. It just feels like it's just a different feeling kind of reign. Don't really know how to feel about it ultimately. I guess I'll have to see how the next few weeks go, but that's my thoughts right now. Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher are back in their dark room, and Ciampa says it's time for a rubber match between them and the GYV. He goes to leave, Thatcher with a big old creepy smile on his face, and he snaps and goes he wants to break some limbs. Very short but intense promo. Up next, the return to in-ring action for Bobby Fish. Haven't seen him in about 6 months since his tricep injury. He's going against Pete Dunne, the man who he blames for his injury, in a bit of a grudge match here. It's a very physical, hard-hitting match, and a good return for Fish here. I mean, Dunne is attacking the previously injured arm a lot, but Fish is fighting back. Some big knees, which caused Dunne to totally crumble out of the corner of the ring here. They trade some arm submissions, but in the end, Dunne hits the bitter end to win the match. Then after the bell, Oney Lorcan jumping Fish some more and really attacking the arm again on the apron and everything, snapping it back, and they kick it and whatnot. My question was, where's Kyle O'Reilly with this? Because it was Bobby who saved Kyle from Lorcan and Dunne 2 weeks ago. And then I know Bobby explained in the promo last week, oh, it was less about trying to save Kyle and more about my grudge with Pete Dunne. But I mean, Kyle at the very least, I don't think he would internalize it that quickly. You know, cool Kyle, man. Why can't cool Kyle come to help Bodacious Bobby? I don't know, we're going to give him a nickname or not. We see Hit Row in the studio, and they're cutting promos on everybody and anybody in NXT basically in that segment. And then we see Mercedes Martinez taking on ZAYDA Ramier. And all I could think of when I was watching Mercedes' entrance was, remember when she was part of the Robert Stone brand for like 3 weeks? Good times. I like the competitiveness of this one. I think ZAYDA has a lot of great looks here, looking very competitive against the more experienced Martinez. But Mercedes takes her out with the air raid crash to win the match pretty handily. So it's a short match, but it tells a fairly good story in a short time. After the match, the lights cut out. They come back up, and we see the Tian Sha imagery, and we see Mei Ying blowing smoke on the big screen. And when Mercedes looks around, she notices the black mark, the 3 lines, the 3 stripes on the back of her hand have shown up from out of nowhere. Now she's freaking out. I kind of like this. I have maintained that Xia Li / Boa / Mei Ying and everything, that whole unit has been one of the more intriguing, interesting things about NXT in the last several months, and for me it's been kind of a saving grace, almost something that keeps the show afloat for me sometimes. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to go, and this seems to be the way that Tian Sha selects their victims. And I mean, like I said, the way of Xaya's evolution from where she was to where she is was very interesting. So I'm really curious to see after that initial chapter going against Casey and Caden, how this next chapter is going to develop. It's time for the $1 million face-off as Cameron Grimes goes face to face-to-face with Ted DiBiase, and Grimes very earnestly asking, what's your deal, man? Why are you tormenting me like this? I just got this money. I'm trying to have some fun, but you keep one-upping me. Like, I look up to you because you taught me as a child that, money will make everyone love you, even if you do terrible things, like kick a basketball out from under a kid who's dribbling it. And so he says, never meet your idols. But then DiBiase is like, I did all this stuff to you because I'm trying to see if you're worthy of carrying the $1 million legacy, basically. And he thinks he might have that in Grimes, but he does not focus enough since he got all his money. Then LA Knight shows up and he says that he's the one to carry on the $1 million legacy. And Grimes kind of like tries to get him to butt out of it, saying this is a conversation between millionaires, so get out of here, bucko. He tells LA he's going to kick his ass to the moon, but then turns around like a dummy, and predictably LA jumps him and takes him down. And then DiBiase telling Cameron, you're just never going to get it, kid. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And then he goes to leave. So wait a minute, this whole thing has been setting up for a Cameron Grimes babyface turn? Like, look, I like Cameron Grimes. I think his character is great. I think he'll be a great face, but I did not predict this was where this was going to go. I thought there was still some meat on the bone for a heel, rich person, Cameron Grimes. And I don't know, like a dumb babyface isn't a great way to get over. And what we saw with Cameron here was pretty dumb. How he just like turned around and exposed himself to LA when he was right there. It's like, that's basic babyface heel dynamic 101, I feel. But, we'll see here how this story goes. Kind of seeing, is DiBiase really going to manage LA Knight in the future? Is that what we're going with this? Like, I don't think LA needs a manager. I think Eli Drake, LA Knight is just fine by himself. So we'll see where DiBiase fits into all this. But if LA is the vehicle to allow Cameron to turn face, we'll see what happens. Indy Hartwell's backstage frantically searching for Dexter Lumis after what happened at the spa last week, and she bumps right into the middle of Everrise and their live production of Everrise Live. And then Drake Maverick tries to help Indy out and tells her that that Dexter was in this dark room a couple hours ago. She goes into the room and the lights cut on, and we see she's surrounded by all these pictures and drawings of like broken and bloodied hearts, and a drawing of Dexter feeling like he got stabbed in the heart by Indy at the spa and everything. And so Indy is like just convinced she's got to try and find her, her star-crossed lover. And so, it was a bit of it's like, I love how it's a totally creepy thing where it's like, think back to like 2001 of DDP and his shrine to the Undertaker's wife, Sarah. That was all pictures and stuff. And this is very much the same thing. Again, they're really normalizing whatever freaky psychosis is going on with Dexter Lumis right now. And just like, it's okay for people to be obsessed with you like this. And, it's an interesting message, but I still am liking this storyline so far. And then it's time for Franky Monet's in-ring debut in NXT against Cora Jade, and just the spectacle of her entrance and the massive robe she is wearing here for her entrance in this matchup. Takes her time against Jade for a bit here. She definitely wrestles. As someone who's not seen a lot of Taya Valkyrie matches before this, she just moves and she attacks unlike most other female wrestlers I've seen right now in the current scene. And so I think that she stands out. Some of the offense in this thing didn't look great. Some of the selling by Cora looked like she was kind of waiting for her next cue. And so there was a couple of moments where I feel like almost got kind of derailed for a bit, but they recovered okay. Cora had a couple of bright spots, but Franky snuffs it out and hits the Glam Slam to win. And Beth Phoenix on commentary going, that looked familiar. So decent first showing for Franky here. Like I said, wrestling a style that to me felt very different from the average lady wrestler at NXT, showing you a little bit of what she can do. It wasn't a terrible match, but it wasn't great either. I think it was just somewhere right in between for her. And so as far as I can tell with the future of Franky Monet, she can only go up from here. The Grizzled Young Veterans are cutting a promo backstage saying they're done with Thatcher and Ciampa. Sure they are. And they are just focused on becoming the next NXT Tag Team Champions. Then we see a promo with Imperium, Walter beaming his transmission to Eichner and Bartel, supposedly, talking about how they rid themselves of Alexander Wolf, and now they've streamlined Imperium, and now they have to right some of the wrongs, beginning with Walter telling Eichner and Bartel to go and fight Breezango. So that match is going to be happening in the future, no doubt. And then we see Bronson Reed, the new North American champion, celebrating his big title win from last week in the big cage match. He says, 14 years of falling and getting back up have led to this moment. Telling the kids watching at home to follow your dreams and don't take no for an answer, because one day you can be a champion. But then Legado del Fantasma show up, and Santos Escobar saying that his story brought tears to all their eyes, and they busted the Kleenex and everything. Santos kind of reminding me here of Eddie Guerrero when he challenged Test for the European Championship back in the day, where he says, you know, Mexico is a part of North America, therefore that belt belongs to me. I love that. That's such a simple justification for it, but like, yeah, you know, he's not wrong. And so Santos clearly gunning for Bronson here. They're about to jump Bronson when MSK show up and even the odds. We find out that MSK will defend their tag belts against Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde next week. But this is a very interesting thread to see that Santos is now shooting, you know, literally above his weight class after having just been the Cruiserweight champion for so long. Now seems to be gunning for the North American Championship. I find it very interesting that, you know, I can't think of too many other wrestlers in NXT right now who've been able to make that leap from like a cruiserweight contention to a different belt. North American feels a good step up for him. It's not like a straight up shot from cruiserweight to the NXT championship. I think he can definitely get to that point, but right now him going from that division to going for upper tier stuff with North American belt with Bronson Reed, I'm very curious about that. Willie Riggs is backstage announcing that next week's going to be a triple threat match with Johnny Gargano, Pete Dunne, and cool Kyle O'Reilly to see who will face the NXT champion at TakeOver in your house. And speaking of that championship, it's the much hyped, much ballyhooed return match between Finn Balor and Karrion Kross for the NXT title, Balor Kross 2. The match definitely lives up to the hype, by the way. It's a great match, very physical. Kross looks so good. He just looks so much like a total star in this thing. I think Balor looks great with his resiliency, and they're going all over the place in this matchup here. Balor is repeatedly just thrown into the barricade wall, and there's a close call near the end when Kross actually is in a submission from Balor, and he almost taps out, but he grabs the referee's hand instead of it falling down. He recovers. It's the big forearm to the back of the noggin, the Kross jacket, and Finn is unresponsive. The referee calls the match, and Karrion retains here. So yeah, like I said, lived up to the hype. This was definitely a great match for both guys. I think that Finn can take a break for a bit now that he's been, you know, beaten twice by Kross. As far as who could possibly win the triple threat next week, I'm leaning toward Kyle O'Reilly here, just because I think he had his two matches with Finn Balor, and now he can maybe move on to challenging Karrion Kross for the championship, and we can see just what kind of snuggery we will see in that matchup. A lot of big smacking sounds and just possible bruises and abrasions. That's the kind of stuff we can expect to see in that matchup. But that's, again, me being speculative. I'll have to wait and see what happens, but for now, very good performance by both guys. In my opinion, though, especially Kross. My overall grade for NXT this week is a B+. I think as far as, you know, advancing stories going, as far as TV product, this was a pretty solid show. Some good matches with a fantastic main event to tie it all together. One of the things I didn't like about this show this week was, again, the stuff with, you know, where was Kyle and helping Bobby Fish when Bobby did the same thing for Kyle 2 weeks ago. And also, just kind of an interesting, I don't want to say bad, I'm not saying I'm against Cameron Grimes as a face. I'm open to it, but I mean, being dumb as a babyface is not a good way to start off, because in what I've seen in history showing, when a babyface starts out as dumb at an angle, rarely do they get smarter. So, you know, not the best recipe for success, but I'm going to consider this one kind of like take a mulligan on this one, and we'll see just how the future of Cameron Grimes' rich babyface is going to go. But what did you think of NXT this week, folks? Let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget, later this week, there will be Double or Nothing predictions coming out, and then, of course, there will be something going on. Again, I have to figure this out, how Friday is going to work, because there's going to be SmackDown, there's going to be Dynamite. They'll not be directly competing with each other, but they will be on the same night. So I do want to try and cover both shows. I do want to do a live show to talk about them. J Biggs may or may not be involved. We got to figure out our scheduling for that. But it will be a good time to get back into the live scene just for a little bit to talk about SmackDown and Dynamite on the same night on Friday, heading into Double or Nothing weekend. So with that to look forward to, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.